Today, we're talking about dream killers. And the saddest part is your dreams were slowly killed, probably by somebody who had great intentions, someone who genuinely loves you. You're probably watching this episode right now, beating yourself up, thinking, damn, I'm unmotivated, I feel lazy, I'm wasted potential, I could feel my dreams slipping through my hands. You know, something that Rich and I discovered in our research for this episode is that most people that feel like they've wasted their dreams, it's been a product of quietly quitting. And that quiet quitting comes from family, friends, people pushing you in a direction slowly. And you don't even realize that you let your dream pass you by. And now life has gotten real serious. And, you know, these people, they have good intentions. They tell you things like, man, take it easy. You have a backup plan. Be realistic about your life. But here's what happens. The bills get louder, the comfort starts settling in, and your dream is starting to sound childish, depending on who you talk to. We've been able to pull some research from this episode. I found out that 8 to 9 men are going to work thinking about everything else other than work and truly feeling miserable on their way to work. That means out of every 10 men, 8 of them are reporting that they have no interest in doing the job they do. And I have to assume as you get older, that increases. Rich, we discussed this off air a little bit, something that we call well-intended dream killers. Why do you think we, specifically you, hesitate to share our biggest dreams or long-term plans with people close to us, including friends and family?
Yeah, man, dream killers, bro. Honestly, I feel like 97% of people can't see the vision that you're on or the dreams that you're chasing. And, you know, for me personally, I try not to let any negative external influences that can slow my growth and my dreams or throw me off course. You know, for example, if you imagine a builder bringing a random person to a piece of vacant land and saying, hey, in 6 months, there will be a nice, beautiful house here. Naturally, the person who's not a builder is going to be skeptical and is going to look at that empty land and say, how, right? I don't see the vision. I don't see the final product. And, you know, that's the difference between someone who can take action and be a doer and build versus someone who just doesn't understand the vision or can't see the journey. And there's a big difference, you know, between these two folks. And I think it's okay to keep your dreams to yourself until you're ready to share them with the world.
Yeah, I mean, we had a pre-show meeting, and in order to protect those that we love and care about, I think we both agreed that the child in us, the dreamer in us, the long-term planner in us, is being met by this brick wall called reality. In my late 30s, I even struggle sharing my biggest dreams for soon-to-be 40-year-old Justin. And I think the phrase that we created, which I think would be helpful for our younger listeners, is they're not dream killers. They're well-intended dream killers. Now, Rich, unpack that a little bit. Why did we add the term well-intended?
Because these people love you, Just. This is your family, your friends, your relatives, co-workers. You know, these people I think naturally have well intentions. They don't mean any malice by this, but the dangerous term that they use a lot is be realistic. And to me, that's such a dangerous term because what is realistic, right? If you're following a dream and you have aspirations to follow a particular goal that seems a bit grandiose, a bit out of reach, it's hard for the people around you who have never tried to follow a similar path or haven't dreamt anything that large to see you accomplish that. They don't see it in themselves, so they don't see it for you as well.
Yeah, I'll give you a great story of this idea of quietly quitting or allowing these well-intended dream killers to come in and take you off course. My nephew, who is 23 years old right now, and when we started Failures, he was a part of the original team that we were trying to find a spot for him. And he would come to me a lot for life advice, and I would give him advice as his uncle and someone that I know he wanted to be in entertainment and be in music. But you and I, Rich, we would discuss often, like, you know, we don't know what's for him, but we know it's definitely not what we're working on with Failures. He just didn't have a spark and a genuine interest for what we were working on, but you could tell he wanted to be a part of something. And I remember this time last year, being around him and being around my family and being the 39-year-old version of myself, but almost seeing my dream inside of my nephew and having him talk to my mother or his sister, and almost all of them teasing him because he already, you know, dropped out of college. He had worked a few odd jobs. He was working construction at the time. And I could, almost like a Christmas movie, like the ghost of dreamers past, I could see them teasing him about his dream about being in the music business. I wanted wanted to fight for him, but there was something in me that just didn't want to argue with my family. But I felt bad because I could tell that they were already shoveling this thing called reality into his graveyard. And they were telling him, hey, it's okay to change your plan. You know, you don't have to execute what you thought you wanted to be when you were 18. And that shit pissed me off. And long story short, and a good story to start our episode off with, was I got to see my nephew find his own little lane in music, where now he works a digital promotional agency where artists, whenever they come into New York or Miami, they reach out to him and he'll bring influencers to them so he can help them create content and visibility online. And this is literally 12 months later. And he currently has a business. He has a license. He has his own little tax code. Like, he is upright and moving in the right direction. And there's something like the janitor in the movie Rudy. I'm cheering for him in the crowd because I was one of the people that told him not to quit on his dream. I love that story, Rich, but I think there's a little bit of that living in all of us. But you even have family, you have friends. And how do you react when you see people, you know, pushing someone in the right direction, in what they believe is the right direction with good intentions?
Yeah, and you know, that makes me think, just like, I wonder if it's a cultural thing, like, not to put labels on certain people, but I feel like white people in particular are more susceptible to,
or you could say affluent people, people that come from, like, you know, but yeah, in our world, if you take inner city kids that come from minority groups, labeling them as white people is something that we would say as a short for what is like the example of it.
yeah, that's a good rephrasing. Affluent people, someone who grew up in a better community, someone who grew up in the suburbs. I feel like those folks understand what it is to envision something, what it is to have a goal, set a goal and meet the goal, versus Latino, African Americans. Like, we tend to want to say, be realistic, right? Try to work in construction, try to be a doctor, you know, things that seem realistic to your parents. There's a disconnect, right, between Gen Z, where they could feel like they could do anything. They could be on YouTube, they could make a fortune on TikTok, they could have an e-commerce store. There's so many different things they could do in this new digital age. And parents who come from a different generation are just like, bro, I don't even see that dream. Like, how are you able to do that? They don't even understand the internet to understand what a digital job business could look like. So there's certainly a disconnect based on like where you grew up and how you were raised.